Okay, so let's move to item 2.6. Vice Chancellor Von Quinlivan, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning. And I'm joined here, you already met Dean Deborah Jones. Good morning to all the members of the board. When I started, Member Ramos challenged me to do some sense making around the division's grant making. And so after extensive field conversations, what we worked on was to develop and align around a common framework, which we shared with you previously, and it's called Doing What Matters for Jobs and the Economy. And in that framework, what we proposed was to braid incentive funding, which are the funds that is administered directly here, to target investments against priority and emergent sectors, importance to each economic region. So again, 3 themes: regions, sectors, and technical assistance needed by these regions and sectors to achieve their objectives. And again, the concept of braiding is not a new one. It's the precedence has been set at the federal level. And it's a resource allocation strategy where we tap into categorical funds, but towards a unified objective rather than disparate objectives. And so what you see in front of you here is a request for your approval of an expenditure plan for 2013-14 that reflects this braided approach of these 3 funding streams against this unified framework of doing what matters for jobs and the economy. And then, of course, any expenditure above the $100,000 level would come back to you for further approval. So my request to the board is to approve the expenditure plan as presented.
Okay. Board members, comments, questions? Member McDougall, followed by Member Ramos.
First, I'd like to commend you for your thinking on the development of this agenda item. I think the ability, I'm glad that there is the capability of the office to be able to pool these funds together and to form a common stream to focus on achievement of overall goals. I think that really helps, because rather than having small amounts of money that can do little, you have as big a pool of money as possible to hit the top priorities. And I think that's really excellent, number one. Number two, I think the goals that you have set are very sound goals, i.e. to supply in-demand skills for employees, create relevant career pathways, et cetera. So I commend the goals that you have. Also, on the activities under the framework, I think those are very sound. The one question I have is the question of regionalization. I think regionalization makes a great deal of sense when there's a natural coming together of districts because of their physical proximity and their ability to serve populations. However, there are many community colleges where that regionalization would make no sense or little sense, and they should not be penalized in their capacity to get these funds because they do not form into a natural region of some type. So that's the one concern I have. I wouldn't want to see a district not be as competitive because they're not able to link in a region. And I could give some examples, but I'm sure that's not necessary. I think when it happens, it's great. It's something to be encouraged, but it shouldn't have a negative consequence. Other than that, I think it's and that's more of a question. I don't know what the assumption is, if there will be more points or more value placed on a proposal. If it's a regional proposal, then I'm concerned about it. But if that's not the case and a district would not be penalized, then I'm not concerned about it. I think it's a very thoughtful and a very helpful proposal and support it completely.
Yes. So there are multiple ways in concepting through how these themes would flow. So one is, for example, sectors don't necessarily take a physical region. It's multi-regions that are not necessarily contiguous. So colleges may play at a sector level, and again, that is not geography bound. So that's one way they can play. On the regionalization, what we started off was, instead of assuming the community college footprint, or which differs from the workforce investment system footprint, which differs from the K-12 footprint. So we have all these different footprints that don't necessarily mesh. What we propose to do was start off with the assumption of economic regional footprint. So where are the industries and businesses naturally clustering? And then therefore, as a starting point, what are the colleges within those physical regions? Now, as we looked at the way to set up the funding formula, the colleges will over time have the ability to choose where they cluster, how they wish to, which region they wish to belong. And the formula allows them to move, the formula will move the funding into whichever region they cluster into. So there's some flexibility around that to accommodate that.
Okay, so the conclusion I draw from your comment is that districts who are not contiguous to other districts, it's not easy for them to, let's say, collaborate, but there'll be different methods that they can get together, but if they cannot, they will not necessarily be penalized.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
And of course, there will be some learning curve in all of this.
Member Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your great work on this. I think this really is responsive to the early conversations that we had, and I really like the template that you've encouraged us to follow. I just want to comment very quickly on the last question from Member McDougall and amplify on the response from the Vice Chancellor. I do think that this is an attempt to enable our districts and our colleges to be more responsive to local economic workforce realities. It is a way to acknowledge that much of our economy, although it is global, it is integrated on many geographical levels, ultimately is a regional phenomenon. And so I do like the regional lens, and I'm pleased that you've clarified that by focusing on that, we don't necessarily prejudice certain campuses or districts for not falling into those clusters. But I would just say, given the good work and the good thinking that's behind this, I would like to encourage members of this board to enthusiastically support and adopt this recommendation.
Other questions or comments from members? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I move.
Moved by Member Ramos, seconded by Member Byrd.
Right, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you.